What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Draft Geeks podcast. The NFL Combine has officially wrapped up. Depending on when you're watching this video, right now it actually hasn't. But if you're live or if you're watching it over, it has officially wrapped up. So we have our post-Combine mock draft. We're doing one round. I'll take the odds. Max will take the evens. Hopefully you guys are ready because the Draft Geeks podcast starts right now.
Welcome into another episode of the Draft Geeks podcast, everybody. The NFL Combine is still rolling on, but Jace and I have, life is in the way, and we've got to roll out our post Combine mock draft right here, right now. Jace, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm excited. I know we talked about this before. You know, we didn't get to watch the whole Combine live like we maybe would have, but got a lot of content, have a lot of measurables that we get to go over throughout this draft process. Some concerning, some maybe not as concerning, but it's starting to get real. Now we're on the pro days, on this stuff. We've had all the showcases, Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl, all that stuff. Now the Combine, it's here, man. The draft is close.
All right, so we've got the PFF mock draft simulator up, and there it is. Hopefully that's visible for everybody. Jace is going to take the odds in this one. He's going to get his Patriots. I'm going to be on the even line, get the Ravens, and we'll talk through a one rounder that's not so eventful at the top.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys don't know, PFF has a new mock draft simulator multiplayer now. So maybe if this podcast grows a little bit more, we get more live stream, we might have to do like a little game against some viewers and stuff, but we only have 2 minutes per pick. So you can see this one's not too hard. I'll take Fernando Mendoza. I'm going to take the rest of the 27 seconds just so we can talk. But this really is I think people are starting to overthink it with some of the comments that Clint Kubiak has made and stuff. This is Fernando Mendoza. Even if they keep Geno Smith, they need a guy in there that they can develop, that they can have to be the guy, for the long run, because it's not Geno Smith. So Fernando Mendoza, number 1 overall to the Raiders, not a very surprising pick.
Yeah, man, I think that's the right move. And I don't think it'll take so long for them to turn that card in. Maybe they'll milk it. Maybe they'll run it all the way down. But I think that's the pretty obvious selection. Moving to number 2, the Jets just traded for T'Vondre Sweat. In that deal, they gave away Jermaine Johnson, and I think that tips their hand a little bit. I think they will be taking an edge rusher at this number 2 spot. Is that Ruben Bain? Is that David Bailey? Are they going to take Arvell Reese and put him down as an edge rusher? I'm going to go with David Bailey at this spot. I think this is somebody whose arrow is pointing up post-combine. I'm still team Ruben Bain over David Bailey, but we're going to mock draft what we think is most likely to happen, and I think David Bailey has a very strong chance to be the number 2 pick in this draft. So I'm going to take the edge rusher out of Texas Tech, who is, there's that viral video of him slipping a couple times at the Combine. I think that'll get thrown around everywhere when he gets drafted, but listen, everybody was slipping at the Combine. It's a turf field that nobody's ever been on. Don't put too much stock into it. Watch the tape. This guy can play. And if he gets taken at number 2, the Jets are going to have a heck of a pass rusher across from Will McDonald.
Absolutely freakishly good testing numbers too. Like a 4.5 40 was in the 99th percentile. He measured pretty well too, 6'4". Well, I shouldn't say very well. He measured better than Ruben Bain. A lot of the things that people are concerned about is his
length is fantastic.
Yeah. So
compared to Bain's.
I don't hate the pick at all. I think that he could easily be the number 2 overall pick, probably the best pure edge rusher in this class and stuff. So that puts the Cardinals on the clock here at pick 3. I do think that they need offensive line help, but we're going through the offensive line right now in the Combine. I just don't know who I would feel comfortable taking at this spot. I really don't for them. So,
I don't think it's going to be Fano after the measurables today.
Yeah. At this, like if they want to tackle, it's not going to be him because he's at 32 and an 1/8 inch arm. So really short.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't love that pick right there. So here Jeremiah Love's going to be in the conversation. I think it's the same conversation as the Raiders taking Genty last year. You don't
I
want him
don't
to
think
take
they
us.
have the line to support Jeremiah Love.
And so for me, I'm going to go with probably my next best player available, and that's Arvell Reese. And I will say this, it is very close for me for Sonny Styles. I know that you're a Sonny Styles guy. You're ahead of him. But Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles are neck and neck. I love the Arvell Reese tape. The testing for Sonny Styles was off the charts, but I'll go Arvell Reese for the Cardinals at pick 3.
I think this is kind of where Sonny Styles' range starts. I could see him being the number 3 player off the board. I think Arvell Reese, because he's able to dip a little bit into that edge rush position, maybe some GMs will be able to classify him as more of a premium player than Sonny Styles, but I do have Sonny Styles higher than Arvell Reese on my big board, but both in very, very close spots with each other. The Titans at number 4, I also think Jeremiah Love is in the conversation here. But ultimately, I'm going to take, well, actually, you know what? I was going to take Ruben Bain, but they just traded for Jermaine Johnson. So I think it's tough, but this is a weak edge rush room in Tennessee. You need 2 edge rushers at the very least. I think now that they have 1, they're able to take Ruben Bain. They have Jeffrey Simmons. They can put together a heck of a defensive line. I think Robert Saleh went and got his guy through the trade for Jermaine Johnson, and I think he'll like Ruben Bain as well. So the measurables, don't think they'll tank him too far. I know in our little clickbait graphic, we had him fall into 15 to the Saints. We're not above clickbait on the Draft Geeks podcast. Got to get you guys in here somehow. Ruben Bain to the Titans at 4.
And I like the pick a lot right there too. I still think that he's a top 5 player in this class, even with the measurables. I do think that with the Jermaine Johnson addition, that Robert Saleh will probably be drooling over Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles at this position. Like, give him a Fred Warner type of guy that they can use in multiple different ways that are great off-ball linebackers. So I think that Tennessee would love to take like a Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese type player, but Ruben Bain is a great pick to help that defensive line in the front 7. So to the Giants here, I've mocked a lot of them taking like a receiver, but I really do like them taking Caleb Downs here. Caleb Downs didn't test super well. Like, he was a little bit underwhelming, but there were some great safeties out there. But this is a good freaking football player. Like, again, another top 5 player in this class that's really good when he's on the field. He can do a lot of different things. I think that he's going to be an all-pro safety one day, and so the Giants getting him there would be awesome, especially with the new hire of Harbaugh.
I adore that pick, Jace. I think that's the move for the Giants. I think positional value gets talked about a ton, but might not be the most significant when you're dealing with a guy like Caleb Downs, who I think is the best football player in this draft class. So love that pick. Cleveland Browns at number 6. I'm going to take the first offensive lineman off the board. This line is absolutely gutted. It's not a very talented group, and it gets destroyed in free agency. I'm going to take Francis Mauigoa to shore up one of those tackle spots, an absolute necessity for the Browns, who will pick again later in the first round, and they can address one of their other needs later on. But got to get the best tackle on the board, in my opinion, here at number 6.
Yeah, love that pick there. Got to be able to take care of whoever the franchise quarterback is, so don't hate that at all. The Commanders are probably jumping with joy here. I think that if David Bailey or if Ruben Bain are on the board, that's the way they go. But I'm going Sonny Styles here again, just to read off some of his measurables. If those of you guys that didn't watch or haven't seen yet, measured in at 6'5", which was in the 98th percentile, had 32 and 3/4 inch arms, which was in the 67th percentile. His wingspan was in the 88th percentile. And then talking about the speed, 4.46 40 was in the 95th percentile. His vertical was 43.5 in the 100th percentile. His broad jump was 11.3, I believe, which was in the 100th percentile also. Just an absolute freak show when he tested. And so Sonny Styles on that defense with Washington, I think would be a great fit, especially with Dan Quinn, more of a defensive-minded head coach. I think he'd be a massive addition for that defense there and help Washington potentially get back to winning the NFC East.
I love it, man. Top 5 player in this class. And I think he shot his stock up so high. When I rework my big board, he may end up being a top 3 player in this class for me. Sonny Styles, a special talent at the linebacker position. Saints on the clock. Edge rusher, we kind of ran that one dry in terms of the guys that you could take at 8th overall. You could take a wide receiver to get Carnell Tate opposite of Chris Olave, but I'm going to continue hammering home a popular pick here with Jeremiah Love at 8th overall to the New Orleans Saints. I think the Saints are in a position to take a weapon to add to their backfield and completely elevate this offense from good and young and promising to legitimately good and very exciting in the now as opposed to the future. Jeremiah Love, the RB1, Alvin Kamara in a contract year. I think you can demote Devin Neal to 2B or 3 for 1 year. Kamara is gone. Maybe you end up trading him this offseason, and then you roll with that Jeremiah Love and Devin Neal 1-2 punch for the foreseeable future. I love that, and I think that could take the Saints to new heights and make them the favorite, not just in 2026, but for years to come in the NFC South, assuming Tyler Shuck sees somewhat of linear growth and continues to ascend.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Jeremiah Love is every bit the prospect as everyone's talked about. First round caliber, top 10 pick, all that stuff, just proved it all with all of his testing and on-field stuff. So I'm in a little bit of a predicament here with the Chiefs. Obviously, they'd love to have Jeremiah Love fall here. I think Carnell Tate making it to 9 and Mekhi Lemon are both really good selections for them. I want to ask you, is this crazy to say Kenyon Sadiq's in play?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I jumped the gun. I thought you were going to go in another direction. That's a tough juggle between what I would do and what I think would happen. I think Kenyon Sadiq could go 9. I thought you were going to ask me about Caleb Banks, which I don't think is crazy that he might end up going at 9. I wouldn't do that, but the guy tested out of this world.
Yeah.
And their defensive tackle clock has to be ticking in that building. So I don't think it's crazy for Banks. I don't think it's crazy for Sadiq. I also don't think it's crazy, especially because Rashee Rice is in legal trouble again.
Yeah.
And Xavier Worthy is, not super reliable on a 3-down basis. So I don't think you could go wrong between addressing tight end because Kelsey, I don't know, have we gotten word on his future? Is he going to play one more year?
And that's why I was going to bring it up. Obviously, Caleb Banks is going to be, if they were to take him, would be the Chris Jones replacement. But Sadiq is going to be the potential Travis Kelce replacement. And whether it's this year or next year, Sadiq is a guy.
Run both.
They could.
And because he runs
Mahomes, in my opinion, has always used the tight end more than a receiver, except for Tyreek Hill. Like that's the only guy that they've really used more as a receiver. So
do it.
I'm going to do it. I would take Carnell Tate earlier because he's a higher ranked player than me, but I think Kenyon Sadiq is seriously in the conversation at pick 9 after the way he tested and potentially depending on what happens with Travis Kelce.
If you right click on your PFF tab, does mute site come up? Just because
am I playing stuff?
Well, only because I think there's like a ticker when you get under 3 seconds.
And you heard the ticking.
Yeah.
You don't like the clock, huh?
I was looking around my room like, what is that sound?
I just muted it. So, yep, there we go.
All right. Number 10, Cincinnati. Going into the week, I would have told you Sonny Styles is a top 10 lock because the Bengals pick at 10. Now this is a tough spot. Cincinnati hasn't had a force on the interior defensive line. I would have loved if Peter Woods tested out of this water to say that he could be a top 10 pick yet again, but I don't think that's the case. They can't go receiver here. Jace, I'm going to ask you what you think. I think this is another potential Caleb Banks spot. I also, just so you know, what if, can you guess who I'm going to say? It would be wild.
What if they just take Carnell Tate and just
what if they just take Emmanuel McNeil-Warren?
Oh, they could. They could. Because I think ideally you would like Caleb Downs to be here at this position. Right. I think that would be a huge addition for that secondary. So they could. I don't think it's out of the realm. All 4 of the safeties that I really like, and we'll get to the safety episode, but Thieneman, McNeil-Warren, obviously Caleb Downs, and then Halsey. They all are
what a group.
Incredible players.
Let's do it. I haven't seen him go this high yet, and I think this makes sense for Cincinnati. They play in a division with Kyle Hamilton. They've seen a lot of Minkah Fitzpatrick and guys like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I know he hasn't been on the field in a long time, but just so many multiple players. I think they want a piece of the pie. Let's go Emmanuel McNeil-Warren at 10.
I like it. I like that pick there. He's a guy that's going to continue to shoot up draft boards because of the way he tested. And I think more people are going to get around to his film and realize, hey, this guy's a pretty good player. So Miami Dolphins at pick 11 already moved on from Tyreek Hill. So I think they're licking their chops here with Carnell Tate and Mekhi Lemon available. Now, depending on what they do with Jalen Waddle, will tell you where they go here, in my opinion. But right now, assuming Jalen Waddle's on roster, I'm going to go Carnell Tate for them. Pair Carnell Tate with Jalen Waddle, and then whoever they have at quarterback, whether it's Quinn Ewers, whether they roll out Tua, which probably won't happen, whether they find a late round guy, whoever it is. But Carnell Tate, Jalen Waddle, you can work with most quarterbacks there as long as you have some protection for the guy.
Malik Willis would absolutely love Carnell Tate and Jalen Waddle. I think he's going to end up in Miami with all the Packer personnel that's been brought down there. I think those Packers guys have seen a lot of Ohio State and Carnell Tate. So I think that's a slam dunk first pick for this new regime. Turning it over to Dallas at number 12. They definitely need some corner help. I don't know why that's not on the needs on PFF. Edge rusher, absolutely, but I just don't see one right here. I'm going to take Mansour Delane. He's my top corner on the board. We still haven't heard much or seen much from Jermod McCoy. Wasn't able to test at the combine. Maybe he'll have a pro day or a private pro day closer to April 23rd. But Mansour Delane's tape this year was incredible. And I think he is an instant starter on the outside for Dallas, who will pick later on, 20th overall. But Delane, I think, could go as high as 5 in this class. So at number 12, Mansour Delane, I think, is a very, very nice pick for the Cowboys, who will be holding their breath that he doesn't go 11 because he's certainly in play for the Dolphins.
Yeah, no, I like that pick there. The Jermod McCoy situation is probably going to be similar to the Will Johnson one. Not like the Will Johnson slide
maybe
last
not
year.
The same result, but just how uncertain it was.
And how big of a slide you could see from him is going to be a little bit concerning. So for the Rams, their first pick, this is obviously from Atlanta because the Rams did not finish this bad. I'm going to go with Spencer Fano. I think that there's some uncertainty. Did they cut or are they going to cut Trent Williams? Is that what the report
Trent
was?
Williams is on the 49ers.
You're right. I see. And now
Rob Havenstein retired is where I think you're getting that from. So it's Warren McClendon.
That's bad.
I think that's hysterical. I think Warren McClendon's got one more year. And the measurements make it possible for Fano to play at guard, but he's so light to play there. But if you need a guy that is going to develop for a little bit, this is the right spot. So there's so many ways you could go with this Rams pick.
I know I just messed up the Trent Williams thing. That was not going to deter my pick. I was going to make that as, hey, he can be a tackle or a guard, but the Rams need offensive line help, especially Stafford getting older in age. Like, he has the receivers on the outside. He has Kyron Williams. The defense has been, good enough. I think here would be a Emmanuel McNeil Warren spot also, but you already took him. So I'm going to just go with Spencer Fano, let them figure it out because he can play tackle and guard, in my opinion, probably a better guard. But if you need him at tackle, you can slide him out there. So I'll just go Spencer Fano here. I think that's really good value for the Rams at pick 13.
I like that pick. I think you could go anywhere from maybe setting up receiver, getting a year ahead of potential Devontae Adams departure. Ty Simpson's an option. We might address that later on. I like the Fano pick, or Fano, however I think it's Fano. Fano sounds super American.
He is American. He's from Utah, bro. You never know what goes on over here in Utah.
I would guess it's Fano. The Ravens at 14. This is a tough spot with the receivers on the board. I don't think Jordan Tyson's going to go this high. I think there's a chance that he slides a little bit. I've seen a lot of Mekhi Lemon to Baltimore. I just don't love that with Zay as somebody that watches the Ravens all the time. It's not exactly what they need. It feels a little bit redundant. I know they're two totally different players. Mekhi Lemon's certainly an exciting player in his own right, but I think if the Ravens can stack a guy like Oliva Vega-Ioane at 14, and then Malachi Fields in the second round, or even a guy like Colby Young, who was super impressive at the combine in the third or fourth round, I think that's a good option. I'm also looking at Jermod McCoy here. I know we just talked about him sliding, but the Ravens, you don't know how many productive years you're going to get out of out of Marlon Humphrey. But until the uncertainty with Tyler Linderbaum is solved, I think they need to be looking inwards on that offensive line. So I'm going to take the guard out of Penn State.
Yeah, he hasn't tested, right? Because the cutoff for the first group was.
I think he might be testing right now. I
think he's probably on right now because I think they cut it off at Max Ionichor, and so he's probably right in that range where he's going. So
yeah,
but like that's a great interior offensive line add for them, especially with the uncertainty of Tyler Linderbaum there. So the Buccaneers at pick 15 need a lot of defensive help. Honestly, they need some help also because they don't know the future of Mike Evans. Is he going to leave them? I don't think he will. I think he'll just ride it out and play there. But they have Emeka Ibuka. They have Godwin, who's obviously a little bit older there too. I think this would be a Kenyon Sadiq spot also because they might be losing Cade Otton, so he could be in play there. But I'm going to go with an edge rusher here, and I want to go with Keldrick Faulk in this position. I like Akeem Messidor, but I think Keldrick Faulk being a little bit younger, a little bit more explosive, probably fits them a little bit better in what they would be wanting at pick 15. Listen, I love Messidor, but I think his age and like how much he's already played will probably push him down in the late 20s, mid to late 20s, maybe 30s, just because people are like, ooh, can we get a second contract, or what will he look like getting to a second contract at age 28, 29 years old? So would maybe say the player right now is better as Akeem Messidor, but Keldrick Faulk
definitely
better.
And Keldrick Faulk, I think I'm glad you took him in this spot because I think we should reflect that Keldrick Faulk after the combine and the good numbers he put up and the very impressive measurables at just age 20 right now. He'll be 21 by the time his rookie year is underway. But point being, he's a very young and toolsy prospect, something the NFL usually falls in love with. Jets at 16, super easy. Keep this one short. Mekhi Lemon, pair him with David Bailey. That's a haul.
They're loving that he fell there. Loving it. So good for them. Detroit could use some interior offensive line help. Just don't love it here. You took Vega. Is it Ioane, right? What'd you say?
Ioane.
Like, Vega Ioane. Yeah. Took him. This could be I think Akeem Messidor fits the Lions also. Like if they need an edge rusher,
because they're ready to go win a Super Bowl next year.
Exactly. Ready to go win one right now. Jermod McCoy, again, is another guy. He's going to be brought up with all these guys. It's just, gosh, I don't know. If they're wanting to go win a Super Bowl, is it Jermod McCoy? I really don't think that it would be if that's what they want. So if I'm looking at going for a corner, then I'm looking more as Avion Terrell, potentially. But again, I'm a little bit undersized, wasn't loving what I saw from there. So I'll go with Akeem Messidor here. I know I just kind of said that he might be a mid to late 20s pick, but it feels different for the Lions than it does for like the Jets or the Panthers, who maybe need a little bit more than just one more guy that could help them win a Super Bowl or get back to the Super Bowl this year.
I agree. I think it's two totally different spots with the Lions and the Bucs in terms of their 2026 trajectories. The Vikings, I'm juggling something nuts in my head that I'm not going to do. I'm not going to take Mike Washington at 18, even with the news of them maybe cutting Aaron Jones, but I just want to outline that I think that could be in consideration as high as 18, although I do think the league likely sees Jadarian Price at the more likely pick for 18 for the Vikings, but they definitely need a running back. But I think the Vikings can leverage the fact that Price and Washington and Jonah Coleman and Emmett Johnson are all very formidable lead backs if you need one, and they can get that in the second round. So with the Vikings at 18, I'm going to take another safety. I'm going to take Dylan Thieneman, and I think he slots right in as the Harrison Phillips replacement. I'm higher on Halsey, but I think the league will be higher on Thieneman.
I love Thieneman. Listen, I think that there's 4 potential safeties that could go in the first round. We've already taken 3. Will the NFL see that as someone that, or like a position that will actually do it? I don't know. We saw 5 defensive tackles taken last year in the first round. And I think me and you both said there would be 4, and then they got a 5th one in there.
Tyleik
Williams. So we've seen crazier. That's for sure. The Carolina Panthers, as much as I would love to take Jordan Tyson here, I'm not going to do that because they took Tet McMillan last year, and I just think that's a little bit too repetitive. 2 Arizona receivers, 2 bigger body guys. Not going to happen. I'm going to take CJ Allen here, the other good linebacker from Georgia. Really think that helps them. Their inside linebacker room just does not. It's Christian Rosenberg, Boom, Trevin Wallace, and DJ Wanham. And then Princely Umanli Mellon, who they got last year, but still, like
that's an edge rusher.
Exactly. He's listed as a Sam backer, but in a 3-4 defense, he's walking up and being an edge rusher.
He's a designated pass rusher.
Same with Nick Scorton. Like Nick Scorton is listed as a weak side linebacker, but in a 3-4, that's not them. So yeah, we need a little bit more of an off-ball type guy, and CJ Allen, I think, fits that mold.
CJ Allen, super impressive. Somebody that I think, maybe we won't see it on the field, but just from watching the tape, somebody that I think is going to shoot up teams' boards once they get in a room and start interviewing this guy. He was the quarterback of Georgia's defense last year, moving everybody around pre-snap. He alluded to some of that, and some of the media interviews he did. I think he's a super impressive player, day one starter, and maybe looked at less because of Styles and Reese, but CJ Allen's a monster. The Cowboys, wow. I mean, Jermod McCoy is still available. I took Delane, so I obviously won't go in that direction. So Dallas with CJ Allen off the board. Don't love the edge rush room. I don't think Cassius Howell is going to go in the top 20. TJ Parker, I think, is certainly an option. He's had a little bit of a rise, but I'm going to go with another edge rusher that I think has been climbing up boards. It's Zion Young out of Mizzou. I think a guy that is super, super impressive, a heavy-handed edge rusher, has continued to ascend over the course of his college career, 6'5", 262. He'll be 21 years old, or 22 years old at the start of his rookie season. Had a great year in the SEC this past season for the Tigers. And I think you look at a guy like TJ Parker coming off a down year, Zion Young's continued to build, somebody that I think will have a lot more buzz towards being a top 20 pick the closer we get to April.
Yeah, I kind of wanted Zion Young to fall to the Patriots at 31, so shame on you, but that's fine. Pittsburgh, I'm going to have them getting a pass catcher. They got rid of George Pickens. They're probably going to move on from DK Metcalf, but I think it makes it smart for them. I'm going to take Jordan Tyson here for them. Whoever's at quarterback, just listen, get DK out of there, save some money on cap. Didn't quite work out. You can let him grow with whoever you're going to play at quarterback, whether you replace Rodgers this year or next year. But I like Jordan Tyson here for Pittsburgh. I think he'd be a great fit.
This one's quick and easy. I think Caleb Banks slots in for the Chargers. Athletic freak who probably goes earlier than 22. I know we could consider interior offensive line here. They absolutely need help. Caden Proctor's probably going to have a crazy RAS score. I think Monroe Freeling just, by the way, had like a 999 or something, which is bonkers. Browns at 24. That might be my answer there. But Caleb Banks to the Chargers. I think Harbaugh would absolutely love the size on this football player.
Yeah. I'm going to go Jermod McCoy here for the Eagles. Easy. Another Howie Roseman masterclass, right? Just let someone fall to you, the best player available. And this is all based off of medicals. Obviously he didn't test this week in Indianapolis at the combine. So see what he does, if anything, for his pro day. Hopefully that works out. But if Jermod McCoy pans out for Philadelphia, that's just another steal for them.
Love that pick. I just alluded to it, but I'm going to take Monroe. No, I'm not. Sorry. I took a tackle at 6. Very happy I caught that before clicking the button. The Browns need help at receiver. I think Denzel Boston is certainly an option at 24. Would it be crazy to double dip for them at tackle, just considering how bad that offensive line is?
They might be losing their whole starting offensive line.
I know.
So I don't think it's crazy. I really don't. I think you can find someone else though in the later rounds.
Yeah, I'm going to take Boston. I think this team needs an impact player at receiver, and I just don't see them double dipping.
Yeah, that would make it a little bit hard for. I agree. I would make it a little bit tough for me. I think that's a really good haul, Denzel Boston, because you've easily talked about, like, you could go Carnell Tate at 6 and then Monroe Freeling here. Either way, however you work it out, I think it's a great haul to get a offensive lineman and a receiver for them. You can find another one, that's at least playable, maybe not, elite level, but you can play him there. So the Bears at pick 25, I'm going to go with TJ Parker here. Or no, sorry, Peter Woods. Sorry, I was like, I'm clicking on the wrong Clemson guy. I'm gonna go with the interior guy, Peter Woods. Really like that fit for him. They need a defensive tackle. The other one I would have talked about was Caden McDonald, but I like Peter Woods just a little bit more on the interior.
Woods tough week with the measurables, but I just still think he's a very talented player on tape. Very, very curious to see where he comes off the board on draft night, whether it's night 1 or night 2. The Bills need some help in the receiver room. I kind of hurt myself on this pick by taking Boston at 24. I don't love Khalil Shakir and Casey Concepcion in the same receiver room. I think Malachi Fields at 26 is certainly in play. You look at edge rusher, TJ Parker. Do you have depth charts right in front of you? I don't, which is
I'll pull one up right now
poor,
for Buffalo.
Poor work. Buffalo, can you give me that safety depth chart?
Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop are starting with Jordan Poyer and Demir Hamlin as the backups.
Yeah, that's it's
DeMar,
a good group. Right. Does Rapp have a contract coming up? I'm looking for an excuse to take AJ Halsey. But if it doesn't crumble that way, that's okay because I think TJ Parker makes a lot of sense.
He is done. Yeah, he's done after this year. Or sorry, 2026 is last year, so he's a UFA next offseason.
I think Halsey's going to slide down a little further than this. 26, I'll take TJ Parker. They're going to lose Bosa, and I think they're going to need to add an edge rusher to hopefully, erase some teams trying to come back on them late in games and help close some games out, which they were, somewhat unable to do, and that's part of why their season ended where it did. We'll go back-to-back Clemson Tigers at 25 and 26.
I like it. Here is my Trent Williams replacement. If you guys were here earlier, you listened to me misspeak. Monroe Freeling, who we just talked about, tested very well, had a 9.9 RAS score. You haven't yet. Very well. Think. So being that I was Trent Williams cheer next he's got a little bit of time potentially. So whether he sits or starts right now, I think that he might have a little bit more developing to do, which is fine if Trent Williams comes back or they just move him to the right side and then wait for him to be the replacement. But Monroe Freeling, I'll take him out of Georgia for the Niners as a potential replacement for Trent Williams.
And the Niners have needed to address offensive line with a premium pick in the draft for a long time, so I think it makes a ton of sense. The Texans at 28. Juggling something similar as I did with the Vikings at 18, but kind of like we talked about with the Cardinals, I don't think this team has the offensive line to support a first-round running back. Caden Proctor, I think, is a little bit higher on my board than Caleb Lomu. I also think Proctor could end up playing guard, which totally works out fine in the Texans' case. Max Ahinachor, however you pronounce that last name, is somebody that I think could end up sneaking into the back half of round 1, but I'm going to take Caden Proctor, the tackle out of Alabama, who I think his foot speed could end up placing him at guard, but I think the Texans and D'Amico Ryans will just fall in love with this guy's physicality.
Yeah, this is a guy that will help change that offensive line and help protect CJ Stroud, help get the run game going, whoever they have there. So the Rams are on the clock. First round, I had them take their first pick, I had them take Spencer Fano. Quarterbacks, I like Avion Terrell. Brandon Siss is a guy. Is it Cisse? Cisse, right?
Cisse, yeah.
You South Carolina expert. And I know you're really high on him, and a lot of people are after his combine performance as a swing DB, like potential safety, potential nickel corner, like can do a bunch of different things.
Kilgore would come off the board at different times, but I think I love Cisse's ability to defend the run. Kind of the opposite of Terrell's skill set in that aspect, and Terrell's a much more sticky man corner. So take your pick, and then Colton Hood's also sitting there. I've seen some buzz with him in the teens. I'm not there on Colton Hood, but
so I like Colton Hood. I really like Colton Hood, and I thought that he had a good performance at the combine where he ran decent at a 4.4. You would have liked that to have been a little bit bigger, but he's right at 6 foot. has good arm length, wingspan. So I'm going to go with Colton Hood here. A little bit of I don't want to say reach, but a little bit. There might be guys that fit better, especially if you want more of a dynamic guy. But I think that Colton Hood is getting a little bit of buzz in the last half of the first round. So I'll take him there for the Rams. They need secondary help. Like I said, I would have taken McNeil Warren there at 15, if that's where they were. I'm 13. Pretty sure at 13, if you didn't take him, for the Bengals at 10. So I think getting them a cornerback is at least, or some secondary guy is what I would like to have seen them do.
I can get behind that one. I think he's also, Colton Hood could be in play at 13 for the Rams. Denver at 30. Denver at 30. Well, here's where we're going to have some recall to you and I's texts over the course of the week. I think Sean Payton absolutely loves that joker position on the offensive side of the ball. And I think we're going to have 2 tight ends go off the board in the AFC West. I'm going to have the Denver Broncos take Eli Stowers, the tight end out of Vanderbilt, a guy that you and I talked about having the best spatial awareness of any tight end in this draft class. And I think the Broncos have the run blockers in guys like Burton and Atkins and Troutman to help supplement some of Stowers' deficiencies. And, they can swiftly end the how much they rely on Evan Ingram at that position, because he just certainly didn't have the output I think that they were expecting. Stowers, I think, could be an excellent option at 30 for Denver.
I am not quite there in the first round yet, but his athleticism is freakish.
I'm not there if I'm sitting in the chair and getting paid to do it. But if I'm predicting what I think is going to happen, I do think that that's very much on the table.
Yeah. So, Patriots are on the clock for me. As a fan, talking through a couple things, I want them to target edge rusher unless they can address it in free agency or unless they can trade for Max Crosby. If they trade for Max Crosby, they don't have the 31st overall pick. I love Zion Young at 31. You obviously took him off the board, so I'm not super high on any of these guys right here. Cassius Howell measured very bad. I'm really concerned about his measurables. I don't know. I like Vrabel likes a bigger defensive end that can set the edge. So that worries me. The one that I think is a sneaky position, because like you said, I think AJ Halsey and did we take Thieneman?
Oh yeah, we took Thieneman.
Where'd he go? Oh, to the Vikings.
18.
So there you go. I think Halsey and if Thieneman makes it here are seriously in the question, because it kind of comes down to best player available. The Patriots are losing Jalen Hawkins. They need a second safety unless they have someone in there, which I don't believe they do. So they could take one there. They could also just wait, because this is a dang good safety class. Yeah. Like going through the combine, there's guys out here that I would love for them to take in the 3rd or 4th round. So then that takes me to the receiver position. If they're not going to move on from or be able to trade for AJ Brown, they need a receiver. I'm going to have them taking Casey Concepcion, because I think if they move on from Stephon Diggs, it saved them $23 million in cap space. And he is a great receiver, but he doesn't pair well with Concepcion. They're very similar. Size wise, how they win. Concepcion a little bit better after the catch. So I'll take this as a Diggs replacement, younger, and it saves them some cap space. I'm going to be honest with you. It doesn't excite me. I don't love it. It's not my number one option as a Patriots fan, but how the board fell, it's probably what I do. And then I'd address offensive line in the later rounds.
Yeah, I don't mind the pick. I think it's something, one of those spots on the Patriots roster that, isn't necessarily a weakness, but the Patriots receiving core kind of looks a little bit like Green Bay's to me, where there's a lot of players that have talent, but not a ton of guys that stand out. And whether it is moving on from Diggs or keeping Diggs, you ask Diggs to win over the middle, where Concepcion maybe does that a little bit less, and he can take some of the downfield routes off of Diggs's plate and certainly add some special teams value, although that might lead to more or less playing time for our boy Efton Chisholm, which hopefully doesn't end up happening. But I like that option. Thought you might end up going tackle with Morgan Moses.
I don't think Morgan Moses for sure, and I love Blake Miller.
Okay.
And so that
love
would be
Blake Miller.
Like I do. Like okay. I don't know if I love him at 31 though. If they trade down and take him, then I'd be happy with that. But they're not moving Will Campbell from left tackle. Vrabel's already said that. So they're not moving him from there. So I don't think that there's a left tackle one. The other guy that I would take, I know you're on the clock right here, is Emmanuel Pagan from, but
Oregon,
again, I'm not taking him at 31 probably over Concepcion. So, they do need to address offensive line, but I like a lot of interior offensive linemen in the third or fourth round also of this class.
Keep this one quick for Seattle. They're going to need some corner help. They lose a lot of it in free agency. You got the sticky man corner, Avion Terrell, but I think Brandon Cisse plays a lot more of a physical brand of football up Mike McDonald in Seattle's alley. So I'll take Brandon Cisse at 32 for the Seahawks.
And that's going to wrap up the draft. So once we get the results here, here you go. Look at this.
Wow. Look at
how nice this looks
from PFF.
Wow. What's the worst one that we got?
Whoa. F's for what were the picks? Can we see the picks?
Kenyon Sadiq
and Emmanuel McNeil Warren. If you go to full results on that top tab, we can see the picks. This is
fun to look at though. Yeah. So we got F's for Kenyon Sadiq, we got F's for Emmanuel McNeil Warren, and that's Stowers. Not really about the players. It's more just kind of probably where they're ranked on the big board. Eli Stowers,
Vega Ioane is a crazy C-.
Wow, Arvell Reese got a C- at 3.
And then
interesting. This is fun.
Pretty good. We were pretty good from there on. What was the best pick?
Jermod McCoy. Dang it.
Oh, the Eagles. We can't escape them.
Yep. That's funny. So let's go ahead and do the full results. If you want to read off, what is it, 1 through 16, and then I'll go 17 through 32.
First overall pick, we had Fernando Mendoza to the Raiders. Then at 2, David Bailey. You know what? I'll get, as we get further down the board, I'll just get in the habit of doing the position in the school as well. Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback out of Indiana, to the Raiders. David Bailey, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech, to the Jets. Arvell Reese, the linebacker / edge rusher out of Ohio State, to the Cardinals. Ruben Bain, the edge rusher out of Miami, to the Titans. Caleb Downs, the safety out of Ohio State, to the Giants. Francis Mauigoa, the tackle out of Miami, to the Browns. Sonny Styles, the linebacker from Ohio State, to the Commanders. Jeremiah Love, running back, Notre Dame, to the Saints. Kenyon Sadiq, tight end, Oregon, to the Chiefs. Emmanuel McNeil Warren, the safety out of Toledo, to the Bengals. Carnell Tate, receiver from Ohio State, to the Dolphins. Mansour Delane, corner from LSU, to the Cowboys. Spencer Fano, the tackle / maybe now guard from Utah, to the Rams. Vega Ioane, the guard from Penn State, to the Ravens. Keldrick Faulk, the edge from Auburn, to the Bucks. And Mekhi Lemon, the receiver from Southern Cal, to the Jets.
Akeem Messidor, the edge from Miami, to the Lions. Dylan Thieneman, the safety from Oregon, to the Vikings. CJ Allen, linebacker from Georgia, to the Panthers. Dallas, with their second pick, takes Zion Young, the edge rusher out of Missouri. Pittsburgh goes Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver out of Arizona State. The Chargers go Caleb Banks, the interior defensive lineman from Florida. The Eagles go Jermod McCoy, the cornerback out of Texas. Denzel Boston, the receiver from Washington, goes to the Cleveland Browns. The Chicago Bears take Peter Woods, interior D lineman from Clemson. TJ Parker, the other edge rusher from Clemson, goes to the Buffalo Bills. Monroe Freeling, tackle from Georgia, to the San Francisco 49ers. Caden Proctor, the guard / tackle from Alabama, to the Houston Texans. Colton Hood, the cornerback from Tennessee, goes to the Rams. The Broncos take Eli Stowers, tight end from Vanderbilt. The Patriots take the receiver from Texas A&M, Casey Concepcion. And the Seattle Seahawks take Brandon Cisse, the cornerback from South Carolina.
Favorite pick you made?
Favorite pick I made. Let me go to my results so I can see this. Listen, I hate who I got 2 of them actually. Okay. I hate who they went to. I do not like Kenyon Sadiq going to the Chiefs. Like, it scares me. But I do think that's an exciting spot. So I think Carnell Tate, if he were to end up in Miami at 11, is a very, very good pick for them to replace Tyreek Hill, to maybe potentially pair him up with Jalen Waddle, and to revamp that receiving core. I really like that value there for him falling to pick 11. And then might as well throw it out there because it's already there at the receiver position. Jordan Tyson at 21, if his measurables, or if his medicals and stuff live up, that's another still of a pick for pick 21. He is a great receiver.
I think Mekhi Lemon, Jets. I think that's an easy one. Player like that sliding down the board, especially for their second pick. And then I like the stack the Browns ended up with Maui Noah and Denzel Boston. I think it's
Yeah.
very interesting. We will throw some set 2-rounders at you guys as we get closer to draft day, and it's very interesting and realistic to talk about the ways that, not just these teams picking in a 1-round silo and just like, okay, yeah, Maui Noah or Tate, I like Tate better at 6 for the Browns, but what kind of tackle can I get at 24 versus what kind of receiver can I get at 24 is a very, very interesting discussion. So try to take you guys through some of those as we play around with those stacks. And then definitely some of the more fun ones, the Emmanuel McNeil Warren at 10. We'll see how high he ends up peaking in terms of his draft buzz. And then hopefully, or not necessarily hopefully, but maybe we'll see some of that Eli Stowers first round love and those very, very back half of the first round picks. Some of that buzz. Anything else before we wrap it up, Jace?
No, it's fun to talk about all this. I know we were texting over the weekend and stuff. It feels like there's 50 first round prospects now after the, and obviously, there were some guys that disappointed with measurables, but they're really good football players. And they're still going to be taken in the first round. There's some guys that tested themselves in the first round, but might not be first round picks because, they
like
don't have
AJ
the film
Halsey.
or think of last year. Nicky Mawari, like he didn't get taken in the first round, and that's one of the best rookies this year, if not the best. And he won a Super Bowl. And so there's going to be guys, and that's why we'll have to expand it to a second round here soon once we get a couple more positions covered and stuff. But no, it's been good to watch all of the combine stuff. Obviously fun to see where, and kind of confirm some stuff. I know you were high on Sonny Styles, and he goes out and tests, and now it's like the world's going to catch up to him, and it's going to see. And so it's fun. I think Maxi Honachor ran very well today, and we'll see how his other testing numbers come out and stuff. And he might be a first round tackle, depending on what people need. So we'll see. It's always a fun time to talk about it and see it all. And we're just starting this process. We have offensive linemen, which will probably combine coming up soon, and then we'll be on to defensive positions, and then obviously some more mock drafts and stuff coming up for you guys.
Very excited about it moving forward. I think every time or every year, this time of year serves as a reminder that this week or so, the combine is meant to answer a lot of questions and showcase some player strengths. And it's never going to replace a film evaluation, but it can also, make you go back and double check some things, which is the very fun part of it. But as we wrap up here, Jace talked about it. We'll probably in a week and a half have some offensive line stuff for you guys. But until then, for Jace Campbell on Max Show Stack, thank you guys so much for listening. Peace.